Welcome to the study, brethren, as we continue inside 1888. Our topic: did the devil reject the festival? The devil that rejected the festival in heaven is still the same which rejected the festival in 1888 and until now, when the message is said to come again. So we saw in the previous study that the message which came in 1888 was the loud cry and was the latter rain. That was commencing the latter rain so that we all receive those doctrines in drips until finally we are selected to work for God in his vineyard, which the 144,000 are going to start working for God when they are completely sealed. So this was the message for us to start keeping the festivals. Why? God will not have servants who work for him only knowing the 10 commandments and not knowing his statutes. God wants his servants to know the whole doctrine in entity. So this message which came in 1888 was rejected at Minneapolis, as we read in Book 1, Selected Messages, page 233 up to 234. We continue with it, and today the study is, we saw how they rejected. They said they wanted to stick to the old landmarks. Which were the old landmarks? The old landmarks were just an era of keeping the 10 commandments only. They thought that's all that was supposed to be done, instead of both the moral and ceremonial law being the schoolmaster for us to go into righteousness. So we have to continue now today as we go to G.C. Blatting, 1892. We saw why God had given that message in 1888. There was a special, privilege which was missed by the church. But that privilege, we can still catch on to it now. Let's hear that privilege which was supposed to be gained in 1888. Let's hear that. G.C. Blatting, 1892, right? If
this message was accepted, what could have happened? If the people of God had gone to work as they should have gone to work right after the Minneapolis meeting in 1888, the world could have been warned in 2 years and the Lord would have come.
Right. So we missed the coming of Christ, which was due in 2 years after 1888. We cannot continue to delay the coming of Christ. That's why there's a need for us to catch on to the ceremonial system, to catch on to the festivals as they were being practiced before the Dark Ages. And the Dark Ages deleted them, changed them into other pagan feasts. But we need to change them back, because this was the only missing practice amongst the brethren in 1888. They were correct in practicing the moral law, but they needed these festivals so that they are completely sealed. So we need that sealing process. And if we say we don't need this message, we are rejecting the seal. We are rejecting the entrance of the latter rain, and we are rejecting our salvation. The plan of salvation is embodied in the festivals. So we will continue to read. If in this book, which is called Inside 1888, which is in the New Estate. So you see, there in the start where it says, can you see, brethren?
Can you see, brethren, what was lost as a result of rejecting the truth? The world could have been warned in 2 years and the Lord would have come.
Right.
So we delay the coming of the Lord by our actions. So what can be said about the current situation in the church for still clinging to the old era?
Now, are we still clinging to the old era of only 10 commandments? Nothing else. No ceremonial system in our midst. And yet that is the gospel. As we found last week, we found that the ceremonial system, without the killing of lamb, but the times of the festivals, that's clearly the gospel. And it says the gospel is found nowhere else except in Leviticus chapter 23. We saw all the quotations that pointed to it. All the truth. We laid everything in our table, and it's up to us to go by what the spirit of prophecy is saying in the Bible. Now here it says, so then let's go to Revelation chapter 3, verse 16 to 17. If we continue to reject, if we continue not to, we have been warned as Laodicea. Let's hear the warning. Let's hear.
So then, because thou art lukewarm,
Right?
and neither cold nor hot.
Now, stop where you are. Are we lukewarm on what? As regards what? The festivals. This is what God was talking about in Laodicea, in the Revelation chapter 3, verse 16. He was talking about the keeping of the festival, that we are lukewarm. The pagan festivals are there. Christmas, we are all into it. Most of them, most of Laodicea are into it. But we are not into God's festivals. And some say, no, we are not keeping Christmas. No, we are not keeping pagan feasts. But they are not even keeping God's feast. So you are in between. So that's why we continue to be called Laodiceans. Neither hot nor cold. Neither for pagan feasts, nor for religious feasts. So where are we? So here's God is saying now, if you continue to be in between, neither hot nor cold, you don't want the festivals. You don't want even the pagan feasts. And you don't even want the God's feast. What? Where are you? You are neither hot nor cold. So if you continue in that state, that meaningless state to God, listen to the warning, verse 16. So then,
because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot,
right?
I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked.
Now, this is a really terrible state of the church, of being neither hot nor cold. We saw it clearly if you go to the Eastern, in 352. You'll find the condition of Laodicea is so appalling in front of God. Neither hot nor cold. 3T 252. And it's talking about the Laodicean malady. Says,
what greater deception can come upon human minds,
right,
than a confidence that they are right when they are all wrong?
Now, when we remain in that state of neither hot nor cold, the devil gives us a carnal security of thinking we are right. And the spirit of prophecy says clearly how our condition is. It's a greater deception than a people thinking they are right when they are all wrong. So you see where we are wrong in keeping these festivals. We are not there. And even the pagan festivals, we are not there. We know in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, that these are the two laws that were tampered with. It says it clearly that the religious laws and the festivals have been tampered with. Now we take the religious laws, which are the 10 Commandments only, and we don't take the festivals. It means we bring to ourselves a carnal deception. A carnal deception that we are right when we are all wrong. We remain wrong because whoever said keep the 10 Commandments said also keep the ceremonial system, the festivals. So if we keep only one and not keep the other, we are all wrong. Now here it says, what greater deception? Listen to that.
What greater deception can come upon human minds than a confidence that they are right when they are all wrong?
You see, it's not anybody saying that. It's the spirit of prophecy. Once we reject God's law, we reject all of it, the moral and the ceremonial. It's no point keeping one. We have to keep both. This is a greater deception, a carnal deception. Thinking we are right, by only keeping the Sabbath and disregarding the festivals is a carnal deception. Now here it says, listen to that, read on and finish that paragraph.
The message of the true witness finds the people of God in a sad deception.
Yeah.
Yet honest
Very
in that
honest.
deception.
Very honest. You can see how people are so honest in a deception. They think, appearing like a Sabbath keeper, putting on these lousy uniforms, different colors and whatever, for youth and for whatever, and they think that's all God is looking for. God is looking for his moral law and the ceremonial system, the festivals, so that we have the complete seal which was rejected in 1888. We need to have it. We have been shown even the quotation that mark that we are supposed to have it again before Christ comes. We have to have the festivals coming back with Elijah, the prophet of the hour. The sad situation that we say, there is no prophet, is the one that causes us not to be very complete in the sight of God. Now here it says, read on this here.
They know not that their condition is deplorable in the sight of God.
Our condition remains deplorable when we don't keep God's statutes. This is what makes us so deplorable in the sight of God. There's no difference when we just keep the Ten Commandments. There's no difference from other denominations because that's what they do. We have to show God we keep the gospel as well, because the gospel is to make us pure, is to make us quite distinct, it is to make us wise. It says so. God quotes and says, God says we are a wise generation when we keep all the festivals and the moral laws. Now,
while those addressed are flattering themselves.
Look at how they flatter themselves. Those addressed, they flatter themselves. After hearing the condition is so deplorable, what is the next step? We are now on the edges of Jordan. Almost any time Christ is going to come. Flattering yourself. Sister White has mentioned that. Let's hear.
While those addressed are flattering themselves that they are in an exalted spiritual
Is it
condition.
what we see around us? Is it what we see around us? People who think they are, because they are now, in a uniform and in a whatever badges and logos and whatever, they are now ready. But God is looking for these laws, the moral and the ceremonial law. And the festival. These are the festivals which were obliterated in the dark ages. We need to put them back. Until 2,300 days was from 1844. They are supposed to be back. Now, here, let's hear.
The message of the true witness breaks their security by the startling denunciation of
Is it not
their
breaking
true
our security?
condition.
The message of the true witness of exactly what our condition is like cuts our security when we thought we are almost ready. God comes to tell us we are in a deplorable situation, thinking we are right when we are all wrong. Now, let's go back to where you were reading there. You go to 7 BC, 966, 8th paragraph. Start where it says, what a sad state.
What a sad state of affairs.
Right.
To be wretched and miserable, and poor, and blind and naked, and not even know it.
Right.
But there is a remedy. The remedy is in taking heed to the message of Elijah, as stated by the SOP. There is hope for our churches if they will heed the message given to the Laodicean.
Right. There is still hope, brethren. If we take up to Elijah's message, there is hope for everyone who rejected 1888 message. Instead of continuing to reject it, there is still hope to catch up in the message and to move on with God. Right? And let's go to John 8, verse 31 to 32. Right?
Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, If ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed.
Right? Once we catch up to the message, there's still hope. We continue in his word and we become his disciples again. And we are sealed completely for the banner, for the pearly gates that we long for. Right, let's hear verse 32.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
Once you know this truth, the truth will make you free. It's this truth that Christ meant, that when we know the whole truth, then we are free. The truth shall make us free. Then in that book, comment on the inside, 1888, as it is only the truth. Listen to that.
As it is only the truth which is able to set people free from the bondage brought on them by false teachings. Mixing truth with error cannot accomplish the goal of setting people free.
When you want to be free, don't mix truth with error. I can see people trying to reach a compromise of saying here they want the truth, there they want also error. This ear should be only inclined to listen to the truth, not to listen to error. If you have to hear error, you have to oppose it straight away and pour out a straight testimony. So you can repeat from the paragraph where you started, as it is only in the Inside 1888 book. It's one of the books which was written by the pioneers. Listen to that.
As it is only the truth which is able to set people free from the bondage brought on them by false teachings. Mixing truth with error cannot accomplish the goal of setting people free.
Mixing truth and error, that won't make you righteous.
So, if the leaders held back the Lord's work in 1888 because they wouldn't come up to true light of relationship of the law to the gospel, what is the Lord to do now that they have had over 100 years to come up to the light, yet still refuse to give up their private opinions?
Right. So you see, will they not take to heart the words spoken? That's the next paragraph.
Would they not take to heart the words spoken to Saul, which were the result of his doing things according to his own thinking?
What was it? Go to 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 23.
For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king.
Right? What is it going to take? Listen to that.
What is it going to take to awaken them to the fact that they have not the covering of the truth they need to represent the great lawgiver in all of his glory?
By saying?
By saying that the law of Moses, the ceremonial law, was that which was against us and contrary to us. They are in effect saying that God set a trap for his people Israel and forced them to fall into it.
So if God gave it to Israel, his people, was he setting a trap for them on a truth that did not make them righteous? This is why God is giving us this law, so that we are in righteousness by faith. Righteousness by faith means nothing if you are not practicing the ceremonial system, because that's the gospel. The Ten Commandments, that's only the law to direct you on what and what you shouldn't do. But the gospel is found in Leviticus 23, according to what Sister White has said. Right? And so they,
like so many other adversaries of truth, are appearing to set the God of the Old Testament against the God of the New Testament.
So it's like we are saying these two testaments have different gods. One in the Old advocating festivals, and the other one in the New Testament saying they were nailed to the cross. But even the one in the New Testament doesn't say so. Because we see even the early Christians were keeping these festivals. We see this festival being changed in the Dark Ages, 538 to 1798 AD, were changed to pagan laws. So the New Testament, we see even Christ going into Holy of Holies on the day of the feast of the atonement. Even Christ pouring the Holy Spirit to the disciples in the time of the New Testament, on the day of the feast, of the festival of the Pentecost. So we see that it was even from both Testaments being advocated. So we are saying there is two different gods, one for us who are living after the cross, and the other for those who lived before the cross, which is wrong. These are the laws of God without animal sacrifices. These are the times, and we are supposed to identify ourselves with them in our worship so that we are regarded as his people. These are the true signs between him and us, so that we are called his children, right? Continue what she says. So they,
So they, like so many other adversaries of truth, are appearing to set the God of the Old Testament against the God of the New Testament. And if that is the foundation upon which their kingdom stands, then they should truly bear in mind that every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against a house falleth.
That's Luke 11, verse 17. So you see, these are the basic laws of the kingdom. That's why, Laodicea is not talking about entering into the kingdom, because they don't have these festival laws. Once we have the festivals, then the kingdom is clear. The kingdom message is clear. But because the festivals are not there, which are a foundation, a basic foundation of the kingdom, then what we'll be doing in the kingdom is what we'll be doing in heaven. In heaven, we'll be keeping the statutes and the commandments and statutes. And in heaven, it's all this system of the ceremonial law. That's what it is in heaven. That's why even Moses was instructed to construct the tabernacle as a copy of what is in heaven. So heaven is all about this ceremonial system without the killing of the lambs. So if we don't identify with it, we are neither identifying ourselves with heaven. Now, when I purpose, listen to that. We want to hear from Sister White speaking of the solemnity. That way, says, speaking of the solemnity of that, it is in 14 MR manuscript release, page 108, third paragraph. Let's hear.
When I purposed to leave Minneapolis, the angel of the Lord stood by me and said, "Not so. God has a work for you to do in this place."
This is what forced the prophet of God to say, I will leave. Let me leave Minneapolis. It says, when I purposed to leave Minneapolis, then the angel had to come to say, no, don't give up. Stay on. Stay on. This is what happened. She's talking about herself in manuscript release 14 MR 108.3. Let's hear. When I
purposed to leave Minneapolis, the angel of the Lord stood by me and said, "Not so. God has a work for you to do in this place." The people are acting over the rebellion of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. I have placed you in your proper position, which those who are not in the light will not acknowledge. They will not heed your testimony, but I will be with you. My grace and power shall sustain you.
That's why we say we follow what the prophet says. The prophet was for the festivals. She's the one who actually confirmed that A.T. Jones and Wagoner's message was for both moral and ceremonial system to be followed by the church. That's why now she had to announce that we urgently need another church, to start another church, because that one was already polluted at that time. So we now urgently need to reinstate these laws back so that God will come up with a church which has both the moral and the ceremonial system accordingly before it was deleted in the Dark Ages. We need that one. This is the church which should meet Christ when he comes. Now let's hear. It
took an angel to come down from heaven to strengthen Sister White as the situation was tense on this occasion. Mark carefully the following remarks from the angel that came down to strengthen Mrs. White.
Listen to what the angel said. Mark carefully. Listen to that.
The people are acting over the rebellion of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram.
Right. This is what the angel said. Says, those who refuse to keep the festivals are acting like Korah and Dathan and Abiram. Much as your worship is good with the 10 Commandments, disregarding the festivals of God, which had been disregarded by the beast in the Dark Ages, is following the beast. This is the warning of the third angel in Revelation 14, verse 9. If any man worship the beast. So now you know clearly what God meant by that warning. That if we disregard the laws that make him a God in heaven, the statutes, these are statutory laws in the government of heaven. If we reject them, we are committing treason in heaven. And this is like Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Right? Let's hear. In this modern, right?
This is the modern Israel's Kadesh Barnea experience.
You remember what happened in Kadesh Barnea? Kadesh Barnea is where they stayed 38 years. Why was there that experience of Kadesh Barnea? It was because God wanted to weed out all those who were going to rebel against him. That was the experience in Kadesh Barnea. Now, this experience is amongst us now. We are in Kadesh Barnea, where we now are disregarding the festivals of God while purporting to be keeping the 10 Commandments. But where is God's kingdom? The foundation of his government is in the festivals, in his gospel, in the faith of Jesus. These are the laws that is coming to enforce on our forehead so that we pour out the seal of the living God. We are identified with the government of heaven. Now, this rejection of this government of heaven is equated with Korah and Dathan and Abiram's rebellion of Moses in the place called Kadesh Barnea. Now, here, let's hear.
This is the modern Israel's Kadesh Barnea experience of rejecting God's word and rebelling against his appointed messengers. This is how Satan worked at Minneapolis to hinder the progress of the loud cry of the third angels.
Right. So you see, when we are in this experience where people are rejecting the festivals, we are in the experience of Kadesh Barnea, where all in that 38 years, who rejected Moses, who was advocating the laws of God, the festivals, and the 10 Commandments. Those who were rejecting that government, where a prophet was administering the laws of God and the festivals at Kadesh Barnea. Those who were rejecting were committing treason. Treasonable crime in heaven is against his laws and the gospel laws, which are a foundation of his government, which are the festivals. Now it is not like we are reading that one from 14 MR 108.3.
It is not you they are despising, but the messengers and the message I send to my people.
Now, Sister White was told by the angel, it's not you that they are rejecting. It's not you. It's not the prophet they were rejecting. It says, it is not you they are despising. They were despising, calling all names, ridiculing. You know, those two guys died out there after losing hope because of the behavior of the brethren. But the angel had to strengthen the prophet of the hour and say, it's not you they are despising, but the messengers And the message I sent to by the people is what they are despising. Now let's hear. They
have shown contempt for the word of the Lord.
That's how they have shown the contempt for the government in heaven. This is what the angel said to Sister White. Now listen. Satan
has blinded their eyes and perverted their judgment.
How many are being blinded? How many eyes are being blinded that the festivals were nailed to the cross? How many? Is the devil doing that? Satan was blinding the brethren in 1888 so that they rejected this ceremonial law. And up until now, some people know that the 1888 message was rejected, but they do not know particularly it was the ceremonial festivals that they are actually rejecting in our time. Is the devil painting the eyes? Now let's hear.
They have shown contempt for the word of the Lord. Satan has blinded their eyes and perverted their judgment. And unless every soul shall repent of this their sin, this unsanctified independence that is doing insult to the Spirit of God, they will walk in darkness.
They will walk in darkness. Unless you repent, keeping the 10 Commandments only without the festivals will make you walk in darkness. God is saying through manuscript release 14 MR 108, page, 3rd paragraph, you will walk in blindness unless you take heed of the law which was rejected at Minneapolis. Now, the angel said, what have, listen to that as we continue.
The angel is saying,
this is now from RH, Review and Herald, June 3, 1890, paragraph 2. What did it?
The angel is saying, unless every soul shall repent of this their sin, this unsanctified independence that is doing insult to the Spirit of God, they will walk in darkness.
Right?
But as it stands now, the ceremonial law is still resisted in the church.
As it stands now, this ceremonial law, these festivals are still rejected by the church.
Yeah.
As it stands, right? The following
statement by the servant of the Lord shows that we do not get all the message of the Revelation 18 angel. We only got the glimmerings.
What did we get? Revelation 18, did we get it from Sister White? What we have are just glimmerings. The church did not get all the angels' messages. The church went up to the 3rd. That's it. Only what we have is glimmerings of the message. But we need the full message of Revelation 18. Listen to that.
The question has been asked me, do you think that the Lord has any more light for us as a people?
That is quotation from Review and Herald, June 3, 1890, paragraph 2. We are in the inside of 1888. Listen to that.
Do you think that the Lord has any more light for us as a people? I answer that he has light that is new to us, and yet it is precious old light that is to shine forth from the word of the truth.
What light do we have? The new light that is coming as new light to us is the old light which has been kept by all saints in the Bible, which comes fresh to us. That's what is called new light in our time. Why? Because if it is new light to keep the festivals, like it was done by the disciples, by the people in the time of Noah, in the time of Adam, in the time of Abraham, in the time of Moses, in the time of all the prophets, then that light which was practiced by the old prophets and the early Christian church is the old light that we should go back to. So what is it then? What is it that we have been practicing? Error. So what we call light in this time is error. And what we call old landmarks is what is the truth, is what is being brought by the angel this time, and is called new light. But it's not old. It's not new. It's old. Because all the brethren in the Bible have been keeping that light. The early Christians have been keeping that light. It's new to us because we have been engrossed in error all this time, thinking we have light. But we didn't have. We need to go back to the old landmarks. Now listen to that.
We have only the glimmerings of the rays of the light that is yet to come to us.
Right?
We are not making the most of the light which the Lord has already given us. And thus we fail to receive the increased light. We do not walk in light already shed upon us.
Why is Laodicea not walking in the next step of light? Because where it stopped, that's where it is until now. Where Sister White, 1915, left them, pleading with them to go into the next festivals, which were brought by A.T. Jones and Wagwan. They are still stuck where they were at Minneapolis until today. Only a few who will feel in the heart they need to be sealed. They need to walk in righteousness. They need to be present in the new heaven and in the kingdom. These are the only ones who will hearken to the light. And they are few, by the way, they are not many. So don't wonder these numbers that are oozing from everywhere. Don't wonder. God's people are few. And they will stand by a thus saith the Lord. Whatever was rejected in 1888, they will pull it to their day-to-day life. And they walk in that light, while the rest are swimming in error. Now here, let's hear the question.
This question was asked after the 1888 rebellion, showing that because of the rejection of the loud cry of the third angel's message, the angel was turned back. The angel was turned back. We didn't get all of the message. We only got the glimmerings.
So what did you get in 1888 at Minneapolis? Nothing. Glimmerings. That message was rejected. This is in black and white. Everyone knows. The message of the festival was rejected. That's why you don't find it in your manual. It was rejected in 1888. Right? And therefore,
reviewing Jones and Waggoner's message would not give us this message in its fullness. Does that mean God will keep silent under such circumstances? Inspiration is
so
clear
we
on
think
the matter.
we can agree as a people just to shun them, and God will just change because we have agreed as a people, as numbers. No way like that. No way. It's the God I know who swallowed the whole generation in the time of Noah and left only 8. He does not compromise any of his truth. He doesn't. Whatever he has said, he will stick by it, whether it's only 8 people or it's only 1 person. He will stick by it and even create the earth anew. That's the God I know. He will never salute and say, oh, you as a generation of the modern day Israel, now, because you are loads of, building all lots of uniforms, whether all kinds of colors. It doesn't matter to God. Keep the truth. Keep the truth. If you are not with it, you'll be swallowed as well. Now listen to that.
We have been inclined to think that where there are no faithful ministers...
It's in 5T, page 79, 4th paragraph. Those who want to read with us, where we are reading now.
We have been inclined to think that where there are no faithful ministers, there can be no true Christians. But this is not the case.
Now, if they were not faithful at Minneapolis, and they continue not to be faithful today, we have been inclined that when they are not faithful, if they are faithful, they will be keeping the festival. If they are taking different dates of camp meeting, somewhere in their conscience, they know the festivals are still there. If they are still washing feet at Lord's Supper, they know the ceremonial system is still there, somewhere in their brain. But the thing is that They don't want to take it as per letter, as written in the Bible. So we are inclined to say, if they continue to be unfaithful, where there are no faithful ministers, there can be no true Christians. They are. True Christians are there. But this is not the case. The case is that true Christians, though they are there, and unfaithful ministers, the true Christians have to take up the cross. They have to take up the cross. Listen to that. God has promised.
God has promised that where the shepherds are not true, he would take charge of the flock himself.
Like it is now. The festivals are clear. This is the founder, the pioneers who were reading inside 1888. It's true the festivals are still there. That's why he says in Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 to 5, he will send Elijah with the statutes, because they have been rejected at Minneapolis. Where there are no true ministers, God will take up the flock himself. It says so in Ezekiel 34. He says, here we will disqualify and take up the ministry. How does he take up the ministry? With the spirit of prophecy. With spirit of prophecy, with a prophet, living prophet among us. He takes up the reins into his hand and he brings up those who are supposed to be saved. They go with the prophet. That's why we see them in Revelation chapter 12, verse 17, that now the dragon who thought that the whole Laodicea will never keep the feast, now find the feast being kept. The faith of Jesus now. That's the feast being kept. There is a living spirit of prophecy, a prophet among people, leading people who are keeping festivals and the 10 Commandments. Yeah, these are they who keep the 10 Commandments and the faith of Jesus. This is what enraged the dragon. The dragon was wroth with the woman. Yeah, you understand now. Now let's hear more. Here it is. Listen to that. In 5T 79.4, right?
Here it is, brethren. There is no way Satan can fight against God and be successful. God has never made the flock wholly dependent upon human instrumentality.
He has never made his flock. If you say those people who are dependent upon human beings, they are not wheat, they are tares. The wheat will never depend on a human being. They will think, they will look for it, thus saith the Lord. They will hear the voice of God. They will hear. His sheep knoweth his voice. They will hear. Don't worry about that. That's why it says, if it were possible, the very elect will be deceived. But the sheep will never be deceived. It's not possible. It's not possible. It wasn't possible. God came right on time. When the devil was almost thinking, now we are triumphed. You know, we can wait for Christ without the festivals. You hear them tell, these are the last days. Yeah, anytime the trumpet will sound. Anytime when you do not have the festivals. It's the devil who thought he has taken everyone under his wings so that they wait for Christ without the festivals. We will wait for Christ with both the moral and the ceremonial law. Come what may, we will. We will. You know, whatever it costs, we will, because that's the law of God. That's what is going to make us righteous. That's what we will stand by in this time of peril and crisis. We will stand by the two laws, the faith of Jesus, his gospel, or the living spirit of prophets coming to lead the keeping of the festivals and the 10 Commandments. We will stand by the whole truth and will be sealed by the whole truth. Yeah. So listen to that. But the days, listen to 5T 79.4. Let's hear.
But the days of purification of the church are hastening on a pace. God will have a people pure and true. In the mighty sifting soon to take place, we shall be better able to measure the strength of Israel.
You see, God will stand by those who want the truth. Those who don't want the truth may leave, and they go to those who accommodate error. They may leave, but God will remain still with those who want the truth and nothing else. God will have a pure, true ministry, not those who play hypocrisy. No, he won't have that. You will have those who will wait for it, thus saith the Lord, and will be led by a prophet. These are those who are going to be waiting for this coming of Christ. Now listen, God will have a people pure and true. Listen to that.
God will have a people pure and true. In the mighty sifting soon to take place, we shall be better able to measure the strength of Israel. The signs reveal that the time is near when the Lord will manifest that his fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge his floor.
He is purging his floor, and it's already begun. You see people playing two ways, jumping here and there, not steady in worshiping God. You will have those who will stand the fan. God's fan is there. The chaff is weeded out. Only the wheat remains. Now here it says, as we continue, in 5T8.1, it says the days are fast.
The days are fast approaching.
Right?
When there will be great perplexity and confusion. Satan, clothed in angel robes, will deceive, if possible, the very elect. There will be gods many and lords many. Every wind of doctrine will be blowing.
Right?
Those who have rendered supreme homage to science falsely so called will not be the leaders then.
This is not time to be looking for those who have been, trained in other institutions with the science falsely so-called. This is not the time. This is the time to look for a prophet. This is the time to look where God has taken reins into his hand and uses a prophet like he has done before. He took Israel out of Egypt through a prophet, by a prophet. They all went out. All those who remained there were not under a prophet. So this is not the time to be looking for the signs falsely so-called. How readest thou? This is the time when we read, is the time to look for a pure, true ministry of God. And of course, those who are not pure and true will be weeded out. And we see them going out. Yes, they are weeded. Unless you stand by a 10 commandment and festival. That's it. That's what God wants. Those who want to play truants and play hypocrisy in these two laws will be weeded out. Now here he says, listen, those who have rendered supreme homage, we have seen that one. Crystal clear, the commentary of the book, right?
Crystal clear, then, brethren, in the last solemn work, God will change the workers.
He will change the workers and those who go by them. We saw in the time of the Passover, he remained with 11 disciples, and Judas was already back to the ministry which was there. For the Passover was supposed to be Judas playing truants, playing hypocrisy with the priest there, until they bought him. They paid him 30 shillings. That was what Judas did towards the Passover. And we will have them who are like that. Don't be shaken. We will have a pure, true ministry following Elijah of the day, where God has taken the reins into his hand. And the only controversy there is the festivals. The festivals will be kept by the true ministry, the moral and the festivals, and they be led by a prophet. Now listen to that.
Why there is a necessity of this change, inspiration makes it plain.
Why is there a necessity of this change? Of those who are trained by science falsely so-called, and the Judases accompanying them. Why do we need that change? So that God remains with those who are led by a prophet and keeping both laws, the commandments and the festivals. Why do we need that change? Listen to the answer.
Those who have trusted to intellect,
right,
genius, or talent,
right,
will not then stand at the head of rank and file.
Right. What are they looking for in the science falsely so-called talent, genius, and what? They want to associate themselves with philosophers. Yeah, that's what we are told by spirit of prophecy. Philosophers, or the people, the big people in the world. God needs those who want to associate themselves with him
Yes.
when he has taken the reins into his hand. Now listen to that.
They did not keep
They
pace
don't
with the
keep
light.
pace with the light. Yeah. They, of course, you can see they are on the third, while now we are in the fifth. They don't keep pace with the light. It's true and it's clear. Right? So because
of the rejection of the truth, God will choose another class to proclaim his message.
God chooses another class. Another class take up the rank. You know? There's no way God will be short of men. When you leave your chair, another one fills it. Another one sits on it. God is not bereft of his people. He is the one who created them. You know? He puts, whether there was a big person who was working, and we have been warned, so many people will leave their ranks. When they leave, he fills with 10. 10. You see? He says another class takes up the cross. He says even if we all stop, he raises stones to proclaim this message. This message will go to the end. Now listen to that.
So, because of the rejection of the truth, God will choose another class to proclaim his message. This is exactly what happened at the first advent of Christ.
What happened? Let's go to Desire of Ages, my favorite book. Desire of Ages, page 232.1.
The Sanhedrin had rejected Christ's message and was bent upon his death. Therefore, Jesus departed from Jerusalem, from the priests, the temple, the religious leaders, the people who had been instructed in the law, and turned to another class to proclaim his message and to gather out of those who should carry the gospel to all nations.
He makes up somebody who was very illiterate, somebody who had never even gone to train in this institution, feeds that brain with his truth, feeds with this, and the Holy Ghost leading that brain comes off. That's how people come into the truth and sit on your chair. Now, as light, listen to Desire of Ages 232.2, as the light and life of men was rejected by the ecclesiastical authorities in the days of Christ, so it has been rejected in every succeeding generation. Again and again, the history of Christ's withdrawal from Judea has been repeated. Right?
Those who have proved themselves unfaithful.
We are on Testimonies to Ministers, page 299. Those
who have proved themselves unfaithful will not then be entrusted with the flock.
God will never make such a stupid mistake to entrust with the flock of God those who are not faithful. Those who have proved unfaithful to the 10 Commandments and the festivals will not be entrusted with the flock. Right?
In the last solemn work, few great men,
even those who you think is the greatest man, few great men will be engaged. You won't find them. Listen to that.
In the last solemn work,
right?
Few great men will be engaged. They are self-sufficient.
That's the reason.
Independent
of God.
And he cannot use them.
And even among us, those who are keeping the festivals, once you develop that independence, you are weeded out. If you hear people talking about now this free, I'm free to do this, I'm free, you wouldn't do that in front of Moses. Moses was supreme ruler. Anyone who came against Moses at that time, proving now I can do, I'm free to do this, I'm free, and was weeded out straight away. Now listen to that. So inspiration is clear
that this message is going to come again, but not through the normal channel, since the leaders refuse to keep pace with the light.
This message has been predicted and prophesied that when it comes again, it was rejected in Minneapolis, but when it comes again, it won't come through the normal channel. Some people are all eyes to the normal channel. You won't get it. The layman will bring it to you. That's why Christ was talking about this message when he said the priest bypassed the man who was marked by thieves. The priest, the Levite, bypassed, but the Samaritan did the job. He was predicting about this last message is going to be done by the layman's movement. It won't come through the channel that we think should come, all messages. Because this is a testing truth. It can't come through the normal channel, otherwise it will hold all hypocrisy. It comes through a channel we don't suspect. It comes to test you and me. And now here we are told that this message won't come. Listen to that.
Unless those who can help are aroused to a sense of their duty, they will not recognize the work of God when the loud cry of the third angel shall be heard.
Unless those who can help are aroused to the sense of their duty. What duty? Of keeping the festivals. Yeah? They will not recognize the work of God when the loud cry of the third angel shall be heard. It's being heard in Laodicea. Unless you are aroused, heads up, to say, this is the loud cry. This is the latter rain. This is the same message which was rejected in 1888. This is the sealing period. This is the sealing message. Unless you are aroused, it says, they will not recognize the work of God. That's why they are going all over the world thinking they've got everything. Why? Because they are not aroused to see where the work of God is, how the work is being finished. That's why alas, they will, like Jeremiah chapter 8, they will say, the harvest is past, the summer is ended, we are not saved. Unless they are aroused. Now let's hear reading from 2SM 108.2. These are only quotations to prove that this message won't stop. It will continue until Christ comes to stop it. And they are all ushered into the kingdom and later in heaven. Now listen to that. Thus, when
this message shall come again, they shall not recognize it. Can you see that the history of the church is clearly chronicled in substantiating on this point? Inspiration has this to say.
Now, Inspiration will say on 2SM 108.2. Let's hear what Sister White says.
Not one cloud has fallen upon the church that God has not prepared for. Not one opposing force has risen to counterwork the work of God, but he has foreseen. All has taken place as he has predicted through his prophets. Not
even a single movement which comes has not been predicted. God has seen everything that comes to the church. If the 5 angels have to come, he saw even the messengers. Who are they? And Elijah to come, he saw even who's supposed to come. Judgment of the living has a prophet. As much as judgment of the dead had a prophet, which was Sister White. Now judgment of the living has a prophet also. Everything chronicled for the church is there. How it is going to be rejected is all chronicled. Everything. Ask me where to find whatever. It is there. Now listen to that.
He has not left his church in darkness, forsaken, but has traced in prophetic declarations what would occur. And through his providence, acting in its appointed place in the world's history, he has brought about that which his Holy Spirit inspired the prophets to foretell. All his purposes will be fulfilled and established.
When he says church, we know when ultimately you will remain with 144,000. That's the church. You can tell me all sorts of floods. You know in Revelation chapter 12 that the dragon took flood, filled flood in the mouth and spew after the woman. So you're talking about the flood. Cast your eyes to the message of God and who is taking it up. Otherwise, the flood is there only to, dissect the message and divide all those who are taking it up and block the message. Yeah? and divert your route to the kingdom. But we want a thus saith the Lord, and who has taken up that message. That's the gold God is using. God is looking for gold in Laodicea who will take up the 10 Commandments and the festival. Not only half truth. He wants the whole truth. And he seals that one. And that's how people are going to be sealed. Now, is it still further inspiration? Let's hear another quote from 1 Corinthians 10, verse 11 to 14. You can find the interpretation of that in 7 MR manuscript release 417, first paragraph. Listen to that.
Each of the ancient prophets spoke less for their own time than for ours, so that their prophesying is enforced to us.
Right?
Now, all these things happened unto them for ensamples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. Therefore, it is invincible that God foreknew the major developments and defeats, not only in ancient Israel, but in the Advent movement, and that he has had his prophets write of them, be they good or bad. Let's hear more about the reaction of the church when this message shall come again.
How then does the church react when this message is going on in our time? Go to Testimonies to Ministers, page 299, first paragraph. Listen to what happens.
When light goes forth to lighten the earth, instead of coming up to the help of the Lord, they will want to bind about his work to meet their narrow ideas.
Right, it's Testimonies TM 299.2. That's what we're reading. When this light is going about of the festivals, this is the light. Don't forget, we are keeping 10 Commandments. It's no controversy, that one. We are talking about this light of the festival. When it is going about, what will be? Instead of them, it says, when light goes forth to lighten the earth. Now it's lightening the Laodicean world first, then goes to the earth. Instead of coming up to the help of the Lord, they will want to bind about his work to meet their narrow ideas. This has been predicted. This is what they do. Are they coming to say, hey, I did not know there was a quotation to say we should keep festivals. I did not know that in Minneapolis this was rejected. They don't come to do that. They don't. They create narrow ideas and bind about the work so that the work has to be so, obscure from the people that the people won't even listen to it. This is what they do. Now listen to that. They won't accept it. That's the first thing.
They won't accept it, but because of this behavior, the Lord is saying.
Now, the Lord says in 299, Testimony to Ministers, 299 page, paragraph 2.
Let me tell you that the
God
Lord
clearly says, let me tell you.
That the Lord will work in this last work in a manner very much out of the common order of things, and in a way that will be contrary to any human planning.
Has he got a way which is contrary to human planning?
Yes.
Yes, of course. Of course he has. What is it? First and foremost, who is proclaiming this message? They are voting for no women ordination. God is using women contrary to their vote. That's what he says. He will work in a way out of the common. Yeah. Whatever you think, this is how the work should be conducted. He comes in the opposite. Yeah? Now listen to what the normal order. Listen to that.
The normal order of things is that the message shall come through the GC conference. The quotation is clear that the message is going to come through the layman.
Right.
This is not common.
Is it common to have a message? In our history, all messages we thought they were coming through the hierarchy. But now this message comes through laymen. That's not a common order. God works in a way which is not common. This is what he promised. Let's hear what he says in point 299. There will be those.
There will be those among us who will always want to control the work of God, to dictate even what movements shall be made when the work goes forward, under the direction of the angel who joins the third angel in the message to be given to the world.
There will be those who will come to you to say, "Oh, don't listen to these laymen. Yeah, listen to these coming from institutes. These are coming from," there might be fathers, there might be grandfathers, there might be, spiritual guides. They come to tell you, "Let me tell you, this is how the message should be. If it is the message, go listen to this institute." When God clearly tells you that he will act in a order not common to anybody, not common. And he has taken the reins into his hands. And he has swapped workers, those who are trained by literal institutions, away. And he has put those who are not trained by literal institutions. It's clear from spiritual prophets. But there are those who are coming to bind about the work, bind about telling, making sure each and one who wants to be saved is taken off. And if it were possible, then the very elect will be taken. But thank God, the very elect will never be taken. Now listen to that. So the work
will then go forward under the direction of the angel that joined the third angel's message, not under the direction of the third angel's message, which means by clinging to the third angel's message and refuse to keep pace with the light, as highlighted earlier, you cannot be used to finish the work.
Right. So the work will not go forward under the direction of the third angel. But it will only under the direction of the angel that joins the third. Not the third angel, but there is an angel which joins, which also created the loud cry. Yeah? So by clinging to the third angel's message and refusing to keep pace with the light, as highlighted earlier, you cannot be used to finish the work of God. Clear from our books. Clear, right? Let's hear from 299, Testimonies to Ministers, page 299.2. God will use, listen to that.
God will use ways and means by which it will be seen that he is taking the reins in his own hands.
Right?
The workers will be surprised by the simple means that he will use to bring about and perfect his work of righteousness.
The means will be just simple. Taking a layman, and layman goes with the work. While those who are binding and making sure they reject at Minneapolis and even reject at the present moment, they will still continue not seeing this light because the devil will block their light. But the layman will take the work and go with it and finish the gospel. That's it. That's how it is designed by God. And let's hear. So, brethren,
according to prophecy, the loud cry of the third angel's message will not come through the normal channel. That is to say, through the leadership.
Right.
Thus, if one wait and say, I shall wait until it is approved by the leadership,
that time will never come. Listen to that, the next sentence. That time will never come
forth the prophecies. It won't come through the normal channel and the leadership will reject it.
Right. GC makes it even more clearer. Let's hear GC 606. GC, Great Controversy, 606.2. That's the message.
Thus the message of the third angel will be proclaimed. As the time comes for it to be given with greatest power, the Lord will work through humble instruments, leading the minds of those who consecrate themselves to his service. The laborers will be qualified rather by the unction of his Spirit than by the training of literary institutions. Men of faith and prayer will be constrained to go forth with holy zeal, declaring the words which God gives them.
We can go on and on quotation after quotation from Sister White to show that the festivals will surely be kept together with the moral law, but not through the channels that we think, not the channels that we sit and think and pay to give us that message, but through laymen. The layman will bring, and when God takes the reins into his hand, he will use those people who are not polluted by that system, and those people who are prayerful, those people who are upright, who are faithful. When he says march, they will march. May God bless this reading. As we study and as we continue to keep these festivals, know for sure God is imparting to us the latter rain and the righteousness which we need. When Christ appears, we will all be saved.